The Accomack County School Board Workshop meeting to order. We will all stand and pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great, we have roll call.
Present.
Here.
Here. Ms. Bull. Ms. Turner here. Dr. Hope.
Here.
Ms. White. Dr. Hall.
All right. We do have a quorum, and we will now open the public hearing on the return to learn plan. We'll ask Reese to read the rules.
Does anybody sign up for it? All right, identify yourself by name and 911 address. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Individuals may not reserve or otherwise transfer their time to another speaker. Specific personnel matters must be initiated at a public meeting. Speakers cannot be abusive, threatening, or use profanity. Specify the nature of your remarks. Speakers who have previously spoken on a subject for public comment shall not be allowed to readdress the board during the same public comment period. Specific questions should be resolved prior to the meeting by contacting the superintendent or appropriate staff member. Anyone who would like to present a PowerPoint presentation for public hearing has to present the presentation 24 hours in advance to review by staff for appropriateness. All questions shall be directed to the chairman, who will, at his discretion, solicit the response from the appropriate staff member.
All right. Do we have an overview of the plan?
Good evening. As you're aware, every 6 months, the school has to report on an update on the return to learn and the health mitigation plan. So tonight, we're gonna do this in 2 parts. I'm gonna present the academic side, and Tanya is going to present the health mitigation changes. The only changes, there were only 2 changes in the academic side, and they were the instructional schedule. And it's really, it is changed from what we're currently doing, but what we're doing is we're going back to what the times were in the initial plan before we had to add time. So the elementary never changed, it stayed the same. And we're going back to the middle school students will arrive between 7:10 and 7:20 a.m. With their instructional day beginning at 7:30 a.m. and ending at 2:30 p.m. And the high school students will arrive between 7:10 to 7:20 a.m. with their instructional day beginning at 7:30 and ending at 2:30. This is due to the tiered ones, and also none of these times are tight and firm. They are a window of time, because we all know middle school, if it says 7:10 to 7:20 and high school says 7:10 and 7:20, they share the same buses. They can't be there at the same time, but that's the window of time that they're going to be at those schools. So that's the other only academic change is that when we did the plan before, we reviewed it, we only had 1 social worker, and this time we have 2 social workers. We have 1 12-month social worker and 1 10-month social worker. So those are the only 2 major changes with academics. Now, throughout the plan, you will see some changes. Dates are updated in the plan. The people who reviewed at the end, it didn't have to be an entire committee, it just had to be going back and looking at mainly the health things so that we can make sure that we're still providing a safe environment for our students. So with that said, Tanya is going to present the changes from the CDC that we had to implement in our plan.
Good evening. As Dr. Hall said, during the period of the ARPS award until September of 2023, Accomack County Public Schools agreed to review the Return to Learn plan every 6 months and would seek and take into account public input during the review process. Plan revisions will address updated CDC guidelines on safely reopening the schools. So a couple of the changes from the VDH and the CDC. The Virginia Department of Health states that interim guidance for COVID-19 prevention for students, teachers, and staff in child care K through 12 schools was retired effective May 31st, 2023. Accomack County Public Schools is proposing to continue to follow the recommendation of the Virginia Department of Health to reference the CDC operational guidance for K through 12 schools and early care programs to support safe in-person learning. The CDC also made a change on May 11th. The CDC stated the public health emergency declaration ended and the CDC would stop reporting COVID-19 community levels. Accomack County Public Schools is proposing to replace monitoring COVID-19 community levels with monitoring hospital admissions and outbreaks in the schools per the new CDC guidelines. And then the final proposal is to update the CDC URL, which is in red under isolation and quarantine, staying home with sick, to provide guidance on the isolation and quarantine for someone that tests positive for COVID-19.
Lori?
So I understand that the committee didn't change, but when did the committee meet?
See, once we did the initial plan, then all we had to do is meet with people on the committee to see if they had any updates in their areas. So that's what we did. We just went back and, like Karen, I talked with her about do we need to do any changes in the time, and that was the time that we're gonna go back to. Time is with health, and those are the only major changes that we need to make in the plan.
So the committee didn't really meet?
No, the committee doesn't meet, it's just that we need to update it. We don't have to reconvene as a full committee. All we need to do is update what we've done in the past, or what we're doing. And that, all that takes is talking to the people in the plan, because as you're aware, we've come to you before and we haven't had any changes in the plan. So you don't need to reconvene the whole committee. You just need to look at parts of it and make sure we're following CDC guidelines, or making sure we're following academic guidelines. And as you're aware, the academic, we've been adding them for the time.
So were there any parents contacted about any of this?
No, we didn't need to have any parents contacted. We're not changing our plan except to say what we're doing to improve, or what we're doing to follow the regulations. So there was no need to reconvene the whole committee, or any whole committee again. All we had to do is give an update on what we're doing, or if anything has changed. And if you don't have anything that's changed, or if you don't have an update, you don't need to reconvene the whole committee again, so.
I guess, not to labor the point, but I was thinking that before we had COVID, the high school started at 8:30 or 8:15.
No, because we've been doing a tiered run since, pretty much since COVID, yes, and since we didn't have the present.
But before COVID,
No, we're talking about, right now, the reason that we're doing the times like it is because we're doing a tiered run, and that was due to COVID and a shortage of bus drivers, which there's still a shortage, and other things that's still with the buses. So we can't go back to, the times that we did way before COVID, because we don't have the staff, we don't have the transportation staff to do that. So therefore, when this plan was initiated, we're still sticking with those times. Now, last year we changed them because after we had to make a time, we had to change them. So that was, indicated in the plan, but now we don't have to do that. However, we still have to do the tiered runs, we just don't have a staff to do it.
And Dr. Hall, I mentioned that numerous times in financial reports, that once we move to the tiered runs, we would not be able to move back.
Right, so That's what I'm talking about. Those are the only major changes with the academic part of it that's in this plan is the times. And I don't know what we're gonna do about that unless we can get a whole lot more bus drivers. That is, it's not possible.
I just heard from a lot of parents that were unhappy with the high school.
Not only is it not possible by the number of drivers, but if you remember, this board voted to put their long-term supplement in their retirement for their double runs. So we have a number of over 40 bus drivers that get paid daily for double runs. If we lost the tiered runs, that would have to be.
The issue is not the tiered runs. The issue is not the tiered runs. The issue is the high school, from the phone calls that I received, it was a high school start time.
Any other questions?
I was just gonna ask, did we ever have an update on the installation of all the contactless things where fountain toilets, sinks?
Mr. Bennett gave an update on that, I think, the last meeting,
Right, 2 meetings ago,
a couple within the last month. I think they're all complete now. We're having issues with vandalism of some of the fixtures. But I think they're all installed at this point.
Okay.
All right, no other questions from the board? We have 2 individuals that have signed up. Ms. Stephanie Jackson.
Good evening. Stephanie Jackson, 15280 Waterfield Street, Punkaty. I'm the parent of a Nandua High School student, and I'm strongly recommending returning to the 8:30 a.m. start times at the middle and high schools. According to the American Academy of Pediatrics, middle and high school students should start school at 8:30 a.m. or later to ensure they are well rested and prepared to learn. The American Academy of Sleep Medicine recommends teens ages 13 to 18 get 8 to 10 hours of sleep every night. The earlier these children have to get up to get ready for school, the less chance they have of being fully rested. My daughter gets up at 5 a.m. every day to get ready for school, and her bus arrives a little after 6:30 a.m. She has peers who live farther away from school and get up even earlier than that. Students who are well rested learn more in school, better retain the information, score higher on tests, and since COVID, we all know there's plenty of room for improvement of test scores. Thankfully, my daughter passed all her SOLs this year, but not without undue anxiety. I won't name the school subject to avoid possibly identifying the teacher, but my daughter was extra stressed about passing one particular SOL because she said her teacher spent more time in class talking about her personal life than actually teaching the lessons. The point is that our middle and high schoolers have enough problems at school without adding unnecessary fatigue to the list. Personnel issues can be difficult to correct, but this is a fairly simple schedule change. I understand there's staff shortages and may not be prepared to go back to all schools starting the instructional day at the same time. In that case, I would recommend swapping the elementary with the middle and high school start times, as this is not ideal, but research shows earlier school start times do not have a negative impact on elementary school students as they have on middle and high school students. Please, when you update the Return to Learn plan and set the school start times for next year, do what is best for the students and what will improve their achievement and overall well-being. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Connie.
Hello, my name is Connie Burford, 8128 Beebe Road, Chincoteague, Virginia. I want to talk to you about the hot breakfast versus grab and go. I don't know about the rest of you, but a warm pancake sounds a lot more enticing to eat than a cold cereal bar. If participation is an issue with the meal, maybe Davis Disposal can give us an idea of how many of those cold meals are wasted in the trash. I would also like to mimic the school start times. Data also shows, like she said, that the high schools and preteens and teens do better performing when they get more sleep. They're chronically sleep deprived. As for the 180-day calendar, well, when we had the 180-day calendar before COVID, it had, at the time, added up to 1,180 hours. Elementary now will start at 8:45 and end at 3:45, which is 7 hours. Same goes for middle and high school, 7:30 to 2:30, which is 7 hours. 180 days times 7 hours will be 1,260 hours. Please, make it make sense how you're trying to say we're not adding more time to the day, and yet we have no snow days or no fog delays built in. Please help me understand this, because it does not make sense. Thank you.
Anyone else want to address the return to lane or learn plan? All right, hearing no one else, we will now declare the public hearing closed. Item 3.01, approval of the minutes. You've had an opportunity to review. Are there any questions? Hearing none, by unanimous consent, we will declare the minutes. Item 4.01, it's the second reading for 238. Are there any questions? Do I have a motion for approval?
A motion to approve policy 4.01 and 4.02.
Second.
It's been moved and second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we have for your review, policies 5.01, through 5.13. First reading. Take a look at those policies, and, if you have any questions, contact the central office. They can give you an update on the information and answer any questions you may have. All right, item 6.01. Change your metal roof.
Good evening. I think you have the list of bidders on the roof, and we are recommending going with the low bidder, a company called Function. This was handled by the same management consulting firm, Metal Roof Consultants, as all of the other metal roofs that we have installed in the county. And all 5 of these contractors were pre-approved by Metal Roof Consultants. So just to also let you know, we analyzed this, the original budget, this is a carryover project. The original budget was $400,000. The engineer's budget, which is Metal Roof Consultants, was $675,000. So this is actually coming in just under $350,000 over the carryover budget and about $73,000 over the engineer's budget. But we did save $301,217 from the carryover project for football and track outdoor lighting, because Mr. Bennett found some cooperative procurements. So therefore, considering that savings, I'm recommending we award this to the low bid, which is to Function, for $747,967. This would make every Accomack County school building have a metal roof.
Any questions? All right, do I have a motion to accept the bid?
A motion, we accept the bid to replace the roof on Tangier Combined School Function.
Second. It's moved and second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Payment bids.
This is the most interest that we've ever received in paving, I think, for the whole time I've been here. We typically can't get more than 2 bids. We were very happy to get 5. As you see, we are recommending it, and the bid was worded that we can separate the projects by school. So we're recommending awarding these bids to the yellow highlighted contractors, which you see splits up the 4 schools to 4 different contractors. And this again was a carryover project. Also included in carryover was the second half of Mandua High School, which we were able to issue that purchase order before this, so that had already been procured. But these are the remaining ones that are in the carryover for pay.
So, I'm sorry, say that again, about what's going on with the Mandeville High School parking lot?
We issued that PO like months ago. because they were already there or doing like the other half of it, so we were able to gain a savings if we told them to do it all. But at this point, that left these schools left of it. So that's why they were not part of it, because it was already procured.
Any other questions? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
All right, I motion we accept the bid for paving to Chincoteague High School, to Pardon, Tank Elementary bus lot, to Mike Huck Construction, Arcadia Middle School to Branscombe, and Arcadia High School to Pruitt's Resurfacing Solutions.
It's moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Item 7.1, Ovarious bullying update.
Julie's gonna present just a little update on what we're doing with various bullying. Is a part of our policy that we have a bullying program, and she's kind of the leader in the division with the team on bullying.
All right, good evening. Our team started in fall of 2021, and we attended a blend of synchronous and asynchronous training for part one of the Old-Bayes Bullying Prevention Program. The training allowed us to work with an Old-Bayes Technical Assistance Consultant, an OTAC, who we still work with today, and we put many hours of time into this to help bring it into the division. So on our committee, we have 9 people. Some of them are here today, so they'll stand when I call your name. Myself, and then we have Becky Haney. We have Catherine Hall, Buddy Pride, Dr. Dana Madison, Shoshani Harris, Della Jordan, Mr. Bajou, and Laura Cody. So Becky, Catherine, Buddy, Dana, and Shoshani are working on a single site license, so they will be able to, they'll have one school that they will support throughout the internment with our bullying program. We have Della, Bajou, and Laura who are working towards theirs with our middle school trainings that we'll be doing this summer. So in the fall, like I said, we went toward had our training, and then in February of 2022, we administered our survey to 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students online. And it was a data collection from each of the schools, and we turned that data over to our administration and our school teams once they were trained. And from there, they did turnkey training with all of their staff, and they rolled out a bullying prevention program in each of their schools. So each of those is unique and to each of their buildings because all of their survey information was different. In the summer of 2022, the teams also, they went in and of course they trained their staff, and then they did their kickoff for the actual schools. In October of 2022, we attended part 2. We supported our schools, our elementary schools throughout, and we attended the training in Williamsburg for part 2. And each elementary school, as I said, has a single site consultant that's working with them, and those are people that we mentioned earlier. In February of 23, we were able to administer the second survey, which gives us some data to work with from how we did from one year to the other with our bullying program. So our schools now have that, and for the next year, we'll be working with the information we receive from that bullying data to frame our program around how to better inform and the community, our schools, our our students on what bullying is and what it isn't. We are now working on, we also did in February of 2023, we administered it to 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. So we have data now presently for those grades. And in 2023, we did a bullying presentation to our middle school students just to give them an overview of what that looks like. And you'll see some slides in a few minutes about that. In June 2023, just 2023, moving on, we will be, actually next week, we will be working with our middle schools to do turnkey training to their staff and work with them to promote this in the middle schools. So a little background about what it is. So let me go ahead and let's move on. If you look here, the bullying prevention program is a systems change framework. It's preventative, responsive, research-based, focused on changing school norms. And if you think about it, it's encouraging appropriate behavior while discouraging inappropriate behavior. And how this all came about was Dr. Dan Obeas, who spent 40 years innovating and researching work with bullying teams and students and youth, found that there was a big issue with bullying and how this was happening in the schools and wanted to do something about it. So in 1970, started the first scientific study through Clemson University. And through that, he's led to the bullying programs that are now through Obeas and our bullying prevention program. So when you think about bullying, we have to distinguish between the characteristics of bullying, rough play, teasing, real fighting, and peer conflict. So in our training, we had the committees get together, we talked about what the differences were, we looked at the data, and we made sure everybody understood the differences. And then we went on to the 3 components of bullying behavior. And when you think about the definition of bullying behavior, there's some key points. It always involves aggressive behavior, it's a repeated pattern of behavior, and it's usually an imbalance of power between a bully and the culprit, or the bullies and the culprits. We also discussed the different types of bullying, the direct and indirect. And we wanted to make sure everybody knew the distinction between these and how important it was to know which ones were direct, indirect, and how they are associated with bullying behavior. Our team then took the what, the who, and the how. The foundation is the what, the program components are the who, and the how is the plan. And we devised the training for our school teams. And in a 2-day training, we worked with these teams. We did a lot of role playing, we did a lot of research studies, and we just investigated different paths of how we can make things better in Accomack County. And from our first survey, we looked at the data we had collected, and we looked at the implications of the school climate and how it is affected when you have bullying, the school safety, how it interferes with learning, it increases fear and disrespect amongst the students, and may increase dislike of school, as well as perceived lack of control and caring. And we knew that the foundation was the basis of moving this forward. So we want to have all students involved in this. It's not just the bullies, it's the students who are bullied, those who bully others, those who are bullied and bully others, and those who are the bystanders, the witnesses, the ones that are witnessing the purposeful aggression. And we learned a lot by role playing. That was our biggest component of this. We had our staff get together, we did a lot of role playing, and we looked at this diagram here. And if you look at it very closely, you'll notice that it's not always just one person. People that are just standing off to the side, they may be passive supporters, there may be possible defenders, but they didn't want to speak out and do anything about it. So we talked about these roles and how these students that may be involved in a bullying circle or a bullying cycle like this, what we can do to help support them and who they needed to talk to, and what we need to do as a school to support anybody that comes and talks to us about bullying. And we realized that all of these trainings don't work unless you have the puzzle pieces fitting together. And within our training, we not only trained individual teachers, we talked about the classroom component, the family component, the school-wide program, and the community, because you have to have everything all together in place for it to work. Our schools were very dynamic this year in reaching out to many organizations around the community to help. And as you see, the overwide school-wide component is our BPCC team. And once we have our training with the staffs, they go back and do turnkey training with their complete staff. The Old-Bay's bullying questionnaires looked at and analyzed. They look for areas of weaks and strengths, like maybe these bullying situations are occurring on the buses, maybe they're happening in the cafeteria. Where are the most frequent flyers that this is happening? And then they get discussion groups together and talk about how they're going to try to eliminate this. What can they do? How can they change things around in their building? How can we better inform the students of what bullying is and what it isn't? So all of that goes into play when you are training the team. We talked about the school rules against bullying. Every school came up with their own rules that they were going to have posted about what they would tolerate and what wasn't tolerated. You had a kickoff event and family involvement. So all of these things, if you look through and saw after the overview, all of this went together, and some of the schools came up with these rules. We will not bully others. We will try to help those who are being bullied. We will include others who are left out. If we know that someone is being bullied, we will tell an adult at the program and an adult at home. So these were some that they could use or they could create their own. A lot of students had impact with this, and they were also in part of the decision making. And as we move forward, part of the kickoff was making sure the students knew what it was and why we were doing it, the importance of it. When we were going to have this kickoff after the training went into it and the students had some discussion with their classroom teachers, and then what should be covered in it. So this is when communities, parents, we had a lot of people from the community get involved in this. Some schools, I believe Dr. Madison and them did their kickoff, and the kids that were invited to or that were at the program, they got a bracelet saying that they were part of the Old-Bay's bullying prevention program, that they did not tolerate it. And it just really excites the kids to be among something that's going to be for positiveness in their schools. Then you have the individual component where the teachers follow up. They do class meetings with their students. They work with them and talk to them about, again, reiterating what bullying is, what it isn't, who is safe in the building to talk to about it. They combine it with their SEL programs that they have in their schools, along with their PBIS programs, and it just kind of all flows together. And then, of course, you hold your regular meetings. Some of the lower grades, they'll hold meetings where they'll sit on carpet and they'll discuss situations, or they'll talk about prompts that they have through our Old-Bay's program. The middle schools will sometimes get together, group their chairs once a week, and talk about issues that are happening in their buildings. So there's different ways these can be done in upper grades and lower grades. And we hold informational meetings with the families too. We sent flyers home, we sent information about it. Some of our local businesses had brochures and posters in their buildings, just sponsoring it. And we are following up in September with our parent university, and we will be inviting the parents to come in and learn more about it as well, the ones that aren't as familiar with it. So we'll be doing rotation segments with them about our bullying prevention program. And then, of course, lastly, we have our community component, which they are always involved in. And like I said, they have helped sponsor the YMCA, some of our local businesses here in Parksley, even on Chincoteague, some of them, when they did the rollout, they donated ice cream for the kids as a promotion to the program. And we had businesses just put the posters in there saying that they're not going to allow bullying, and they don't agree with it. They agree with what we believe in our schools, and it just shows that community effort. And lastly, through this program, we have supplemental resources that each of the teachers has access to that are online, where they can hold their class meetings. All of these materials are available to each of our teachers. And when they hold their meetings, they can use these. As I said, they can use the information they're learning through their SEL programs, as well as their PBIS programs. So it's all an integration of everything they're using, and the best way to support and promote an anti-bullying program in our schools. And And if you look here, this is when we rolled it out with our middle school students. We did this May 4th, and our team broke up, and we each went to the different middle schools. And we always have our kids play an active part in it. They're always a participant because we want them to learn by sharing. And we had the administrators as well participate in it. And the students, it was really enlightening to see some of their responses and some of the things that they said afterward. And a couple of the schools had their students silently answer questions with their heads down about have they ever been bullied? Have they ever been played in some of these roles? It was amazing how honest they were, and their faces when you talk to them about how it makes people feel. And I just really saw that they were buying into it. So we're looking forward to rolling this out in our middle schools in the summer. Any questions?
I just have one. Does this program at all address bullying at starts, or is involved with their cell phones sometimes?
Cyberbullying plays a big part of this too, so it's any type of social media, and that's one focus we did do with middle school, and we're gonna definitely be promoting that with this program because we know it's going on. We also know that, students know there's a lot of ways to get around with technology, so we're trying to, let them know that if you're doing this circumstance happens, this is what happens. This is considered bullying when they really don't realize that. So we are trying to enlighten that and bring it to their attention, and it will be addressed in their trainings. Yes.
Any other questions? Thank you so very much. I mean, this is a critical topic. We know that it's happening in our schools. Our goal is to prevent it. Next item on the agenda, 7.02, federal grants update.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here tonight to share with you and summarize our upcoming Title I application for the school year 23-24. These applications, as you probably know, are lengthy documents. The Title I is 16 tabs long and some over 200 lines. So I'm just trying to give you a quick overview of what is in store for this coming year. So our projected allocation is $2,186,743.74. And you're probably wondering, where does that number come from? What we have to do is we have to base it on the previous year allocation. We submit our application July 1st, and then we hear back around September, October with any adjustments to that amount, and then I'll go back in and do an amendment and adjust the application. So for this coming year, our measurable objectives are going to be based on these items that you see here. All of these items, we have room for growth, room for improvement, based on SOL assessments, based on various testing, and just everyday things happening in the classroom. So these will be, each one of these will have a separate measurable objective. So our budget priorities for this coming year, a couple, I know you have already previewed all of these, but a couple I want to highlight. One is instructional assistance for our elementary STEM labs. The idea is hopefully we can recruit individuals for this position, but it'll be someone that'll be in the lab all the time so that the elementary students can have that as a 5th rotation. They have art, PE, music, library. We'd like that to be a STEM lab and be in every week rotation. So that is our goal. That's one of our goals. Of course, reducing failure rates in students identified. Next to the last bullet, I wanted to point out is for family engagement events. I'm not sure if you've ever been able to attend one of the Title I family engagement events, but they are pretty amazing. They're required to do 4 a year, but most of our schools do one, at least one a month. Wetumpka has one tomorrow night that's really exciting, the Heritage Night, that brings all of our diverse populations together. So again, a lot of our funding goes towards our families and educating them and informing them of ways to help their students. And of course, the last one, is reduction in truancy cases. I'm not sure a lot of our families know how truancy and absenteeism affects accreditation in schools, so that's another big push. So how do the Title I schools spend their allotments? I listed several things here that our schools will be doing, how they will spend their money. As you know, the Virginia Literacy Act will go into full implementation the year 24-25. So some of the professional development things are, just the past year and this coming year, our schools are doing a lot of training to prepare for that, and that's where you see things like Wharton Gillingham and letters, field trips, SEL materials, all kinds of supplemental resources. Basically, in order for an expense to be allowable, the school has to write a justification as how their purchase is aligned with those measurable objectives that I told you. So one example, the Nando Middle, they did a mural on their wall, and we couldn't just buy paint with Title I money, but what we did is we connected it to math and science. They measured the angles, they tied science and math into it, so they were able to do that activity under Title I funds. And then, of course, we have division set aside funds, and you see here various things that we use those funds for, and that we'll continue to use the funds. The Just Right Reader take-home libraries, that's something we'll continue next year. The students pre-K through second grade this year, they just received them this week. They're take-home libraries that they get to take home and keep building that literacy into next year. Some other things, social emotional libraries, parent resources, and again, professional development. And data analysis, substitutes for data analysis and things like that. That is just a very quick summary. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions?
Okay, and I
Thank
just
you
have
so
a-
much for sharing with us.
a form for signature.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we have to move on to.
Good evening. I'm the coordinator of Title II, Title IV, and Title V. And just a quick overview of what we're going to use our money for. As you can see, I anticipated funding $241,436. And as Katie mentioned, that amount can be adjusted in September based on what the state decides to give us as our final allocation. And as in previous years, we would use that money. Title II is for teacher support. And so we use it to provide funding for one division teacher mentor coach, 6 part-time division mentor coaches. And usually they're retired teachers. We use it for the new teacher academy, and we use it for building level mentors also. And a lot of times they are retired teachers. We base a lot of this on our professional development, on our comprehensive needs assessment. Also, we use some of the money to give bonuses for our properly licensed and endorsed teachers the first time around, and we reimburse for their initial Virginia application, CPR, anything to help them get their license. So we use Title II for that also. And it's also for travel, for VDOE, for the Virginia Association of School Curriculum Development. We help use those funds to help pay for our teachers and our administrators to travel to different conferences. And we also reimburse for the practice exam. So my next grant is Title IV, Student Support and Academic Enrichment. As you can see, it's not a whole lot of money there, but it is a decent amount of money. $137,714.51. And as I said, that number is adjusted in September. And Julie just talked to you about our obvious bullying, and we use a lot of that money for our obvious bullying training also, have money in that budget for college, trips and T-shirts and transportation for our kids to go. We use it, because it is for enrichment, use it for STEM and robotics. And we are going to use this grant here to help sustain our Cal Ripken's labs also. You heard mentioned Parent University. We're gonna come back to you a little bit later on to talk to you about our first Parent University, which will be September the 9th. Becky Haney is working on that. It's gonna be a wonderful half day at Mandua Middle School on Saturday. We have lots of community people who will be presenting to parents. It's a university where we're gonna help parents kick off a good school year and help them to understand truancy, attendance, bullying, studying, and various other topics that we have. And you'll hear more about that in the next few meetings before the summer. We pay for consultants fee, we pay for classroom management. Those are some of the things that, this year, we're gonna do something different with Title IV. A few years ago, some of you might remember that we have one school, Accomack, that sponsored Girls on the Run, and I don't know if you know about that program, but that is a kind of character building program for young ladies. And we're gonna bring that program back, and we're gonna sponsor it under Title IV, so that we can have a Girls on the Run team in each elementary school and middle school this year. And I'm really excited about that, because it's a lot of helping young ladies feel good about themselves. And they do running and everything, and then the finale is they go to Virginia Beach and they run in that major race with all the kids out. Mr. Gardner's daughter ran in it this year, and it was really neat. So we want to have that in Accomack County also for next year. That's Title IV. Title V is my last grant. The anticipated funding is $134,189.73. And Title V, we use that for after-school remediation, credit recovery. We look at our schools and what they need according to their critical needs assessment, and we help pay for those kinds of things. They go to we send our administrators to CERN at William and Mary. We pay for our working lunches for our new teachers academy. So those are some of the things that we pay for with our Title V funds. Any questions?
I just have a quick comment about the Title V is after-school programs.
It can be, it can be.
It seemed like we had after-school programs, but they didn't really happen because we didn't have buses.
And
So I guess I'm
teachers.
wondering, I mean, I'm a big proponent of after-school. I think parents appreciate after-school. It helps them in the classroom, the kids can get their homework done, they can snack. Everybody's happy. But I guess I'm just wondering, what are we gonna do differently to make that happen?
And all we can do is we put it in a grant and we let them know that usually a lot of our money for Title V, we use it for high school credit recovery, because they have to stay after school for credit recovery, and that's not something that we've had for regular academic after school in the past. So we've had that in there, savings for after school and summer credit recovery. It's kind of different with credit recovery than it is with them just sitting and being taught by a teacher what they missed. So that's why we have it in there. And as anytime we don't use the funds, we amend the grant and we choose to use it for something else. So we put those in there initially because and the State Department says that's fine, these are what you should use your funds for. But we can always amend it and use it other places if we need it, so. But you're right, we have lots of money for after school, for the academic part of it, not necessarily to let them come in just to recover their seat.
Any other questions? All right, could I have a motion to?
We got one more, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
One more.
Sorry.
Good evening, how are you? Okay, so I'm gonna do Title III Part A and Title I Part C. So Title 3, Part A is for language instruction for English learners and immigrant students. That's our anticipated funding, $87,328, which is not as much as Katie, but we still have the lengthy application and all those 200 lines to complete. But, we currently have our population for ELs receiving services. We have 720 students. We have 309 students that are being monitored, so that makes a total of 1,029 students. Next, it shows just an overview on what we use in the funds. Unfortunately, our part of our grant only pays for 0.2% of our EL migrant administrative assistant. We also have after school and summer school as well. We did have a program after school right before access for ELS assessment. So we did have good participation there. We had a couple schools that couldn't stay after school, but they did like morning remediation, like first thing as soon as the students came into the building. We use some of this also for stipends for professional development outside of the school day. We'll also pay for Elevations database which includes strategies to support the general education teachers that have ELS in their classrooms. And also other programs that we have is Rosetta Stone licenses, to support the English language, and Rats for Kids. That's just a couple of programs that we have. We also send teachers to the VESTA conference, which includes, we cover their travel, the registration, and other costs. And other meetings the state, the VDOA has to offer. We also buy newcomer materials like for Sattler, Finish Line, National Geographic, and other supplemental materials. We also help with parent engagement activities. Katie mentioned the parent engagement they have next week here, tomorrow here on the Tompkin, and we got books for the students to take home. So, just being part of the parent engagement and supporting the kids as well. Okay. The next one is Title I Part C, which is the education of migratory children. That's the anticipated funding as well. The number of students, last year we have 70 migrant students. This year we currently have 63 active migrant students are at the schools, and that doesn't include any that we might get this summer. And that's just, again, the list of things that we do with those funds. Most of our funds go through to the summer program that we have. We usually have that the whole month of July. We hire 16 teachers, 12 paraprofessionals, recruiters, and translators. We also have dental services for the students here at the school, which is provided by Eastern Shore Rural Health. And we also have PD for the teachers to teach those students, through Migrants Literacy Net and SIOP, other SIOP training as well. We also do reimbursement for transportation of students to and from school, and to field trips as well. Here are some other things that we have, that we spend the money, like a travel for meetings, travel for recruiters when they go out to the camps or to their houses, Kits for Kids, which includes hygiene kits, backpacks, school supplies, and also we have field trips. Last year we did all the field trips there, and we're planning to do that as well. We're adding the Nature Conservancy this year as well. Level readers, take-home books, instructional materials to reinforce, reading and math, and also we do parent engagement during the summer. Okay, any questions?
Question? All right, thank you very much. All right. Could I have a motion on approval of the,
All right, I motion we accept the Title I Part C, Title III Part A, Federal Program Grants, Title II, IV, and V, reports and statements.
okay, I got a motion to accept all reports. I got a second, all in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. All right, financial update.
I'd like to start with the Virginia retirement, Rob, please. Or I can start with that. So I'm bringing forward to you tonight a proposal to change how we pay our Virginia retirement system to length of contract. So currently, just to give you an overview of VRS, we have 3 types of retirement plans. It's all based on your date of hire. There's not a choice on any of that. So Plan 1 are employees hired on or before June 30th of 2010. Plan 2 is from July 1st of 2010 through December 31st of 13. And then hybrid is for all employees who are hired on or after July 1st of 2014. Plans 1 and 2 are defined benefit plans, and employees contribute 5% of their gross pay to VRS by law. The Plan 3 hybrid plan is called that because it's actually a hybrid, a blending of a defined benefit plan and a defined contribution plan. These employees contribute 4% toward the defined benefit portion and 1% towards the defined contribution portion. Also, hybrid employees may make additional contributions up to 4% with matching employer contributions up to 2.5%. So it's important to note that the hybrid, you can be contributing just the 5% or you can go up and continue to level it up. So it's not just like 5% like everything else is. You have to keep track of all the different levels of the employees who elect to hold more. Okay, so currently, we are on a schedule where we withhold the 5%, or it could be higher if it's with the hybrid. And we combine that with the employer contribution, which is currently 16.62% for professionals. And then we submit this to VRS on a 12-month basis. We submit it monthly because we pay employees over 12 months. The VRS schedule, their system is called the Navigator, and that software bills school divisions based upon the particular employee's length of contract. So there, for example, 10-month employees, which are the majority of our employees, because it includes teachers, instructional assistants, bus drivers, cafeteria staff. They work 10 months per their contract, so VRS expects to be paid over the length of the annual contract, which is 10 months rather than 12 months. This payment difference causes what we call a deferral in payment and service credit. And our payroll department must reconcile this difference monthly and annually. Reconciling the hybrid tier is especially complicated and time consuming due to, as I mentioned before, you can have many different contribution rates if you're a hybrid employee. Out of the 132, that's a typo, I'm sorry, out of the 132 school divisions in Virginia, only 19 remit their VRS contributions over 12 months like we do, rather than the length of contract. So just to show you an example of service credits earned on a 10-month employee, VRS gives all employees, whether they're 10 months or 12 months, get 12 service credits a year. Under the VRS Navigator system, they get 1.2 credits a month for 10 months. The way that we pay it in, they get 1 credit a month for the 12 months. It's still 12 total credits, but you see the deferral column on the right, and you see by the end of August, it comes down to 0, but you see that at every single month, there's a difference between what we have paid in versus what Navigator says that we should pay in based on length of contract payment. So the reconciliation issues, if a 10-month employee works for the entire year of their contract, which is ideal, the differences deferrals work themselves out by the end of August. However, our books must still reconcile with the Navigator monthly. So if you have a resignation or retirement of a 10-month employee at the end of the contract, all deferrals are due and billed through the Navigator on June 30th. However, we're still collecting and accruing the employer portion through August. So other complications are mid-year separations. That's when we have a 10-month employee who leaves before the end of their contract. So the deferral must be reconciled per employee and withheld or accrued on the final contract payout. Also, leave without pay, the deferrals must be reconciled. So I'm not talking, say, a week leave without pay, but we have extended leave without pays. And so we have to go back and reconcile that, because if they're on leave without pay, they cannot earn service credit. Also, late start, which is any employee that's a 10-month employee. This does not apply to 12 months on this last complication bullet. But if you have a late start on any 10-month employee who has a start other than the beginning of contract, that also causes a problem with reconciling the deferred amounts. So the VRS wants you to do this, if you're going to do this, like we do at the beginning of the contract, because with the same kind of mentality that we use with the health insurance increase, that is when there should be a salary increase. So they would recommend, and we would recommend starting this. They would do it late August to take effect September 1st. So I just pulled a couple examples. If I took a 10-month teacher, step 15, because it doesn't matter that we're paying over 10 months rather than 12. Our concern is the effect it will have on our employees, because everybody's still paying the same thing, but employees need to know, if we do this, how their paychecks are gonna be affected. You're still going to be paying the same amount, however, you're gonna be paying it over 10 months rather than 12 months. So the first 10 months of pay is actually gonna be that 0.2 service credit difference, so they'll be getting less, but then in the 2 summer months, they'll be getting more, so that the actual net pay variance goes down to 0. But one of the things I think that would be very important for the success of this is to make sure we get this out as many ways as we can, so that everybody is cognizant of the fact if you're a 10-month employee, because they're gonna look at VRS withholding and they're gonna see it's not 5%. So that's an example I just pulled for a teacher, just showing you the difference. So their beginning pays per month are gonna be $46.62 less, but then the summer months, they get that all back. And we used to do this a long time ago, like when I very first came, and our payroll manager at the time said that we were required to change to 12 months, which now VRS says they don't know how that happened. But, so we're looking at switching back. We did do this in the early 90s, we did pay this way. So the next slide is just an example for a bus driver, because it's all based on your pay. So the difference is still that 0.2 amount of service credit. So they receive $10, and I just pulled a figure, $10.79 a month less, and then they would make it back up in the 2 summer months. So, that's all I have on that. We would recommend that. We have 2 people in our payroll department that process everything for 850 full-time employees and over 1,000 employees total per pay. Trying to do these monthly, and you can see by the dates, everybody that's hired now is a hybrid employee. So the amount of Plan 1 and Plan 2, where it's not as big of a deal to reconcile, are diminishing every single year, and the Plan 3 or the hybrid plan are growing, because if you're hired after 14, that's what you have to be. So this is getting more and more difficult as more and more of a percentage or proportion of our total employees are hybrid. And so, and VRS recommends the change as well, and the auditors recommend the change.
And I guess it's very important that we then educate our employees and explain to them so they can be planning and understand what would happen when this occurs. Larry, any questions? Yes.
Just so I'm clear, there's no difference in pay annually.
Right.
Just that it makes up over the summer.
Yes.
Same amount of pay.
We used to also do this with all our health insurance, and that was a big, big difference. But we switched that to 12 months because, you know, cafeteria workers or bus drivers who, the health insurance can be a burden anyway. That was a real burden throughout the year. So we're not recommending changing that, just the VRS.
Any other questions? Could I have a motion to accept the recommendation?
Motion we accept the change payment for VRS for 10 month
consideration? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Understand we've got to get your people, got to know what's going on.
Now for, our operating budget. I brought before you at April 11th that I talked to Rob Loxam, and he did not expect anything to change as far as passing a budget until after the June primaries. And of course, I'm thinking June primaries, very, very beginning of June. No, they're June 20th.
20th, yes.
Yes, they're June 20th. BACO has reinforced what Rob told us 2 months ago, and that is that they will not even begin to work on a budget until maybe the 21st. So what happens is we revert to the last budget passed, which was in June of 22, which is what our budget right now is based on. So we revert to that budget, which is not probably gonna be the final budget, and is possibly not the best budget for us, but we must pass a budget before June 30th by code. So I just want to give you some figures to think about, and next meeting, we are going to need to pass a budget. You know, we came back on May 2nd, and we passed the teacher salary scale so that we could get contracts out, and I think that everybody will tell you that that's been a big plus. So that was a really good thing we did that. I think it also, by getting contracts out, not only were we able to give prospective new employees what salary, what they would be making, but at the same time, we were able to get contracts out to existing employees, so they had to either sign or tell us that they're not coming back. So we ended up, I think in the long run, we've learned a lot sooner about employees who may possibly not be going to return, whereas before we might not know until June or July. So that's been a help as well. So I just put some numbers together, and these are not all of our state numbers. So the budget book that we worked on is the first column. These are the revenue categories that are different, okay? So it's not all of our state revenues, it's only the revenue categories that are different. So you see that basic aid is going actually up, but when you take all of the differences, we're still about $257,000 down from our governor's proposed budget, which is what our book is based on. So if you take the yellow highlighted ones, that's the one that if there's a decrease or increase, it goes specifically to the program. So it doesn't affect what I consider our base budget. So if we have $7,861 less in at-risk, we will be spending that much less in at-risk. So I took them out of the equation when we're trying to look at what effect and where we stand at, like kind of globally. So removing the yellow highlights means that we're still down $113,663. Then I looked at the blue, sales tax. Yes, that might be down from the adopted last June of 22. However, things have gone up since then, and even though everything on sales tax, we receive what is collected. So I am not feeling that we should have to look or forecast for a decrease of $359,000. I would take that out. So that leaves a net, after you make the adjustment for the yellow and the blue, we're actually up $245,905 from what our book was. Next slide, please. Okay, so if I take this came from our public hearing, that showed how much we were short, $2.1 million. And like I said, you can look back at the slides and the PowerPoints in February, and that's where this came from. So now the new summary is that number from the previous slide, the increase in revenues that I just went over from the June of 22 adopted budget of 245. And then the third item is the debacle that occurred at the budget office of the Department of Ed. They have never addressed this. So we are still $616,000 down in their miscalculation of our basic aid because they did not take the credit for the grocery tax hold harmless. So that means what we'll be addressing in our next meeting is approximate $2.5 million budget shortfall. Everybody's having to address this across the state. both the House and Senate versions of the budget out would give us more money, and if that happens, then we will amend the budget. But however, we must have an adopted balanced budget by June 30th. So one of the first things that I'm gonna look at to address this and present to you all this $2.5 million deficit are all of the one-time items that were in our FY22 budget that we did not take out. That alone will address about $1,150,000, so that doesn't quite half it. Then we're gonna have to look at strong things like buses or other things in our base budget, because if not, we're gonna have to cut programs. If you remember, our teachers were given an average of a 7.27% raise because we hope that a House or Senate version passes, and that's a 7%. So we did not want to issue contracts and then have to come back and increase it from 5% to 7%. I would recommend the same thing, and I will look at the wording as to how that 7% is, but the governor's budget is a flat 5%, and the Senate and the House are a 7%. I'll have to look at how the wording is to see if that's just specific to teachers or if it's to everybody. But these are things that I'll be bringing back at our next meeting. I just wanted to kind of throw some of these numbers out there so that y'all can look through your budget data. We're gonna have to hit programs. But anyway, we will look at the base budget at the operational type items, knowing that if we get money, because we don't wanna change contracts.
Right.
Knowing that if we do get more money, like it is anticipated that we will, we'll put those line items back in again.
And that's what we're really hoping we get that. Okay. All right, any questions? All
And
right.
then the only other thing I had is I did want to let you know that Clara and I did release the classification and compensation study that was in the budget. We were amazed that we received 7 responses. So we have 7 books that we are trying to read and narrow down. So we have received that. And I just wanted to let you all know that that was back in.
Okay, and that is something we want to sort of get update on, the fact that we do have that study. Okay, thank you very much. All right, any other questions? Okay, next item, superintendent's report.
Just a couple things. Our bookmobile is a great success and it's in demand. We've had several requests from different agencies to bring the bookmobile to them. And, Katie worked very hard, to make sure that it stays stocked and we have plenty of books on hand to give the students. Their day, Officer Campbell back there was just saying, thanks everybody for a wonderful Dare Day. It was great, but we thank you and the Sheriff's Department for providing this for our students every year, and it's always wonderful and fantastic. And, our fitness meet went off really good on, Monday? Yes, no, Tuesday. It was Monday yesterday. And, Brandon and, Carol did a very good job organizing that after we haven't had it in several years. And, we were asked a question about the summer, food program. So, and how we're going to involve UPS with the delivery, and I've got Brandon here so he can explain that, give you a very short synopsis of how, that's gonna happen.
Good.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I'm just going to give you a brief overview of my plan for doing summer meals this summer. In the past, what we've done is we actually serve the students just an academic summer school breakfast and lunch. That was great. We did Matomkin here. This site was a pickup site for any parents and students interested in picking up meals. But it was great, but it didn't really, the turnout was not great. I felt like we were missing a lot of students. There's a lot of students with barriers to food insecurity. As we all know in our county, food insecurity is a major problem. And we want to make sure we're reaching these parents and students and families with food over the summer. And luckily, I've had to do a lot of research, a lot of contacting, a lot of grant writing recently to try to make this happen. But my goal is this summer, we're looking to not only serve our students in academic summer school breakfast and lunch, but we want to send home shelf-stable meals to provide families with food all summer long. You might wonder how we're gonna make that happen. It's actually quite a simple process. I've hooked up with No Kid Hungry Virginia. I partnered with them. I partnered with a vendor called PepsiCo, Food for Good. You may have heard that on the news. Baylor University, a lot of their students are actually involved in the program. So they get community hours to help pack meals, and they send them, they contract with UPS and they send them directly to families' homes. This was something that a lot of families used during COVID, when schools were closed, when you really couldn't even go to a grocery store. So this is the way that they made it work. So luckily, beginning of last month, USDA approved a non-congregate waiver for summer food service. Basically what that means is for regions with a low population, we're permitted to send meals home delivered meals to families. This is not every county in the state. It's very few selected counties, and we are one of those. So as soon as I found that information out, I was right in touch with my nutrition specialist. Lori Beckwith, the nutrition consultant in Pennsylvania. We've been discussing this. There's been a lot of planning going into it, but what we're looking at is we're going to be working with PepsiCo. All meals are I just finished up the nutritionals actually yesterday. It's going to be a 5-day meal program, so it's going to repeat. However, every 2 weeks, every family that fills out a permission slip, which I've got a copy here if you want to look at it before you leave. Actually, first of all, we sent permission slips to every business on every border of Accomack County. So if you can find a business, more than likely they've seen the permission slip where they have a copy. So we want to spread the word on this, because the more families, the more successful we can make the program, the better. And we want to reach families with food insecurity. And I've had so many phone calls from parents stating, well, Brandon, I'd love to get the food, but I have no way to get my student there to pick the food up. Or obviously a 4-year-old can't drive to the school to pick up food in Wetumpka at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Parent work schedules play into that. There's just been a lot. I've had so many parents reach out to me wanting food, but they just can't get it. So this would be the perfect opportunity for us to launch a new program. Good PR. Not only is it budget friendly, obviously that's a big portion of what I have to research. It's a budget friendly program. It's all reimbursable meals. So the following month we would be reimbursed. If we send 4,000 meals out to students, we would be reimbursed for every one of those meals. And the cost is worked out to where it's below the reimbursement rate, and that's including, so basically on my end, there's no labor involved in Accomack County besides me, my office. All that we would be doing is submitting all the families who turn in a permission slip by the 16th. We're going to submit a document to PepsiCo, and they are going to compile all of that, figure the logistical side of it out with UPS. There's actually an app called Box. So it's an online app. So every permission slip that comes back, there's a phone number that they provided, and they will get text alerts about their deliveries to their door. That way they know, hey, my food arrived at 10 o'clock this morning. Hopefully the dog doesn't eat it or no one steals it off their porch. But if that happens, we are not liable for any of that. However, it should be it's going to take a little bit to work out the kinks of it, but we're hoping to start the second week of July with the first delivery. There will be one delivery every 2 weeks. It'll consist of 10 days worth of breakfast and lunch. Every student, so say they have 6 students in the household, they'd receive a box of 10 days worth of meals for every child in that household. Any child 18 and younger is eligible. They don't even have to be enrolled in Accomack County public schools. And like I said, the nutritionals are going to be things that I wanted to select a variety, because I don't want chicken delivered ever for 10 days worth of chicken. So I did pizza, I did nacho meals, I did barbecue chicken, chicken salad, cheese and meat. So there's a variety, and it's all shelf stable. So that was the other thing when I was planning this whole thing out was, okay, how are we I don't have a sufficient dry storage to hold 6,000 cases of food. I also don't have the labor to deliver to 5,000 homes every week. We just can't do it. So with PepsiCo, with their affiliation with UPS, they've really worked well with Accomack County to ensure that we can meet this. And there's going to be a lot of advertisements going out might be on the news, I don't know who's gonna come here, but I'm just trying to spread the word to as many families as we can. So if you can help me with that, that would be excellent. They're gonna be, I know I've had the question, how are you gonna sit milk outside? What if families come home at 8 o'clock at night, how's that milk gonna be any good? Shelf-stable milk, it's called, so that'll be included in the box. Every day there'll be vegetable juice, which is shelf-stable. All of these items are from 2 months to a year, in their shelf life. So you will not have to worry about food sitting out for a couple hours. Like I said, once the food's delivered though, Accomack County Public Schools is no longer liable from there. But we will provide families with updates via the Box app. We'll tell them all about that. They'll be getting emails, phone calls, text messages to let them know, hey, your box has arrived. Or if it hasn't arrived, we'll reconcile addresses after the first, go around of the first week. So maybe an address was written wrong on a permission slip. So we'll make sure if that's incorrect, we'll fix it and get the meal to the parent for the second delivery. Any questions?
So where are the meals shipped from?
Okay, so it's coming out of Food for Good. So they work with Baylor University, so it's gonna come out of their warehouse. So yes. So they pack 10 days worth of meals in a case, and you'll get each student with a case.
Have we started marketing yet? School closes in a period.
Well, yes, I put it on my Facebook page, but I don't know what I did wrong. My Facebook page got blocked, so I don't know. I don't know what I did wrong there. I'm in Facebook jail apparently. So we gotta get that figured out, but that's another problem. So we have sent out the flyers to every school, the permission slips. If they've run short, we've told them just make copies, please send them home to students. Head Starts, every YMCA has them already. Parks and Rec, they were jumping up and down doing jumping jacks when we walked through the door, They've been excited about it. The health department is well aware of the project and they're gonna be monitoring it because I am gonna be audited. So we do have to make sure on the compliance side, the meals are all meeting the meal pattern requirements, nutrition analysis, all in that 9 yards. But they've all been made aware. The state knows what we're doing. I mean, we're one of very few in the whole state to be able to do this if we can pull it off. So they're gonna be monitoring it and really watching closely to make sure we're doing what we're supposed to do.
You have applications tonight?
Do I have any?
Yeah.
I have one to make. You're welcome to make copies.
You have a room full of parents.
Well,
Okay, start somewhere.
Dana can make
how
some copies.
many copies can we make real quick? Yeah. Any other questions?
Okay, any other questions? Right.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you so very much for sharing this with us and taking the initiative to try to help the parents and the students here in Accomack County. And he's quite sure he will answer any questions for you.
I do have a question.
After the meeting.
Sure.
All right, next item on the agenda,